What are you talking about? There's no way I booked a room for you. What? I told you this is a family vacation. Today is just for family. My mind went blank at those words. What is this person talking about? You think a wife who can't even produce an heir is family. You can't be a family unless you give birth to a boy. So you never planned to let me stay here from the start? Of course not, my mother-in-law laughed triumphantly. I had reached my limit. Understood. I'll be leaving now. I'm Olivia, a 32-year-old office worker. I married my husband Michael 6 years ago. Currently, we live in New York with our 4-year-old daughter Emma. Michael is competent at his job, calm, kind, and dependable. My Phil runs a business out in Nebraska, and my Bill works at the same company. I've heard that my Bill is expected to take over the company in the future. But Michael, being the second son, doesn't seem too interested and hasn't talked much about it. I wasn't particularly on bad terms with my in-laws and kept a respectful distance, visiting them only during holidays like Thanksgiving and New Year. Michael saw his family, and his parents' home is separate, so it was good that he didn't interfere too much. However, everything changed one day. Hey Olivia, when are you having your next child? What? Hurry up and have a boy. Even if you say that, suddenly I received the command from my mill to produce the grandson. I was completely taken aback. She usually calls during working hours. She had never called so frequently before, so I wondered what was going on. If I called back from work, she'd ask, "Are you pregnant yet?" Did you get pregnant? I thought she'd stop after a few days, but it only got worse. If I didn't return her calls, I'd get flooded with messages. Ignoring those messages led to more calls. A relentless cycle. I couldn't take it anymore and decided to talk to Michael. At first, he couldn't believe it, but when I showed him the call history and messages, he was shocked. What is this? I was surprised too. I wonder if something happened. I was puzzled by the sudden change. After thinking for a moment, Michael said, "I recently heard that my brother got divorced. Sorry for telling you late. I was busy with work." Oh, I see. Maybe Mom's worried about the future of the family business now that my brother is single. The timing of the divorce certainly coincided with the start of the phone attacks from my mill, and the word boy was in every word. I'll talk to Mom. Even though Michael said so, considering the reason why she calls during the daytime, she must be trying to avoid being noticed by him. I think it'll only make things worse if you tell her, so it's okay. When I refused, Michael said, "Let me know if it gets unbearable." I was really glad that Michael saw his family and his parents' home as separate. Even after that, the calls didn't stop, and it wasn't just about kids anymore. She started criticizing my family, my personality, and even my job. The stress was building up so much that I sometimes turned off my phone to cope. My dissatisfaction with my mill kept growing steadily. If this continued, I thought about blocking her calls altogether. One day, while having dinner with my family, my phone rang. Oh, it's from my mill. Mom is calling at this hour. It was unusual for my mill to call in the evening, especially when I was with Michael and Emma. I nervously answered the phone. "Good evening, Olivia." Right from the first word, I could tell her attitude was different. She was probably aware her son was around. Was putting on a sweet voice. "We're planning a family trip next weekend." A sudden family trip? What could be the reason for this? "And Olivia, I want you to drive." You know Michael doesn't drive. I was stunned by her demanding attitude without considering my opinion. She said the destination was a hot spring about a 3-hour drive from New York. While it was possible to stop by her place on the way, it would require a slight detour. Mill ended the call with, "I've already made the reservation, so I'm counting on you, Olivia." Even though I hadn't agreed to go, she had already made the reservation. She hung up the phone before I could say anything. Michael looked at me apologetically. Emma was excited about the trip. If I refused, my mail would probably get furious. 7 during one night seemed better. Since Emma was happy, Michael and I decided to go on the trip. On the day of the trip, the calls and messages from Mill hadn't stopped. Since I agreed to go on the trip, I couldn't block her calls, and it was tough. Check-in was at 3:00 p.m., but Mill wanted to do some sightseeing, so we had to arrive by 10:00 a.m. We planned to leave at 6:00 a.m., pick up my in-laws by 9:00 a.m., and reach the destination by 10:00 a.m. I got up at 5:00 a.m. to get ready. Michael and Emma, rubbing their eyes, managed to wake up too. "All right, let's head out," though not excited. Michael seemed to be in a good mood. At this point, I had no choice but to try and enjoy the trip too. Thinking that, I kept driving. After 2.5 hours, we were finally about to reach my in-laws' house. It's important not to underestimate the traffic on a Saturday morning. It was good we left with some extra time. I called Mill on speakerphone. "We'll be there in about 10 minutes. "Oh my, you're quite late. It's disgraceful for an adult to oversleep. Are you neglecting your housework too?" She probably didn't realize others could hear her. "The roads are busy on Saturday mornings. I told you we'd leave at 6:00 a.m. and arrive around 8:30 a.m., my Mill quickly responded. It seemed she didn't expect her son to be listening. My Mill quickly backtracked. "Oh yes, that's right. It's just the right time." Then she abruptly hung up the phone. It seems her son is her weak spot. It was the first time Michael had seen how his mother treated me, and he seemed very concerned. We arrived at my in-laws' house exactly 10 minutes later. When I rang the doorbell, my Phil answered, "Oh, thank you for coming. I'm sorry for the trouble, but she's still getting ready. Could you wait in the car?" Despite all her complaints, my Mill wasn't even ready yet. After waiting for about 5 minutes, she finally came out of the house with a sweet voice intended for Michael, Phil, and the grandchild. She said, "I'm sorry for the wait." Since Michael and Phil were sitting in the back seat, Mill took the front passenger seat. When I started driving, she began to complain in a whisper about my driving being too rough or too hot, ways that the back seat couldn't hear her. I stayed silent, knowing that reacting would only make it worse. A quick glance in the mirror showed Michael, Phil, and Emma happily chatting in the back seat, which cooled me down a bit. After about an hour of enduring Mill's complaints, we started to see steam rising around us. We had arrived at the hot spring destination just past 10 a.m. I felt relieved that we made it on time. As we got out of the car, Mill remarked, "I said I wanted to be here by 10:00 and we're late." Neil said the delay was clearly due to her not being ready on time, and it annoyed me. She should have been ready when she called. Despite my frustration, we had an enjoyable time sightseeing and eating until check-in time. However, Mill continued her petty annoyances, making me carry bags and hold places in line. Seeing Emma's happy face made it all bearable. Michael noticed I was carrying Mill's bags and took half of them. Finally, it was time to check in. As long as Emma kept smiling, I wanted to make the trip as good as possible. "Could you handle the check-in, Olivia?" "Sure." Once we checked in, I thought there wouldn't be any more issues for the day. "We have a reservation for 5 for 3:00 p.m. I gave my name at the reception, but something seemed off. "We have a reservation for 4 people, not 5. I quickly realized Mill had arranged this. The receptionist continued, "We have the names and ages of the guests, and only one 60-year-old woman is listed." Mill had intentionally caused trouble for the hotel. "I'm sorry, it seems we made a mistake. Is there any way to add one more person?" The receptionist, looking apologetic, said, "I'm very sorry, but we can't add any more guests to this room. We're fully booked today." I was unsure what to do next when Mill approached with a smug grin. Oh, Olivia, is there a problem? Mill grinned slyly. Did you make the reservation, Mill? It seems my name wasn't included. I couldn't help but speak a bit harshly. Then Mill said something shocking. What are you talking about? There's no way I booked a room for you. What, I said it was a family vacation, right? Today is just for family. My mind went blank at those words. What is she saying? You think a wife who can't even produce an heir is family. You can't be a family unless you give birth to a boy. Something snapped inside me. So you never planned to let me stay here from the start? Of course not, Mill said, laughing triumphantly. Just then, Michael noticed the commotion and came over to the reception with Phil and Emma. What's going on? Michael asked, but Mill interrupted. I made the reservation correctly. This must be the hotel's mistake, she said, looking at the receptionist. Just a moment ago, she had intentionally said she didn't book a room for me, and now she was blaming the hotel. No, I took the call, and I'm sure the reservation was only for one woman, the receptionist said, clearly confused by the sudden change. Did you forget what you just said? Blaming the hotel is unfair. I quickly defended the hotel. Mill's face turned red with anger, and she started yelling, Shut up. We are customers. I made the reservation correctly. Despite the receptionist's best efforts, Mill continued to shout, Young women like you can't do your job right. Get me someone higher up. Everyone was stunned, but they gradually understood the situation. Mom, calm down. So Olivia's reservation wasn't made? Michael interjected. That's right. I just wanted a family trip without any interruptions, I said. Mill's drastic change in attitude made me sick. How long did she think she could deceive Michael and Phil? I'd had enough. I've decided I will really leave. Even if I wasn't there, Michael could take care of Emma. Fine, I'll leave then. Since I'm not part of your idea of family, I said. Hearing this, Mill's smile widened. Oh, really? That's a shame. Well, since it's the hotel's mistake, we should get some compensation. She didn't book my room on purpose and now wanted to blame the hotel for extra services. Michael stepped in to help. We'll find a place for the three of us. You and Dad can stay here, he said. Mill's face showed clear displeasure. Oh no, it would be a waste of cancellation fees, and it would be impossible to find a place to stay in a hot spring resort on short notice on the first day of a 3-day weekend. And I want to spend more time with Emma. She mentioned their grandchild. Michael couldn't respond. I'll be fine. Please take care of Emma, I said, thinking about whether to come back tomorrow or find somewhere else to stay tonight. Apologies for the inconvenience. There's no need for you to leave, ma'am, the man in the black suit said as he appeared from the back of the reception area with the woman who had been at the front desk earlier. He seemed to be the hotel manager. See, I made the reservation correctly. I included Olivia, the manager replied. I see. If that's the case, there might have been a mistake with the age entry. We can't change the number of guests, but age discrepancies are not an issue. The man in the suit spoke gently with a smile, essentially suggesting that I stay in place of Mill. You must be joking. The reservation is for one woman, right? What about me? Mill yelled, but the man in the suit remained calm. Ma'am, you just said you had definitely booked a room for this lady as well, didn't you? Mill's face turned bright red as she responded. Yes, I said I booked a room for both me and Olivia. 2 women. The receptionist spoke up quickly. As I mentioned earlier when I took the call, you said 1 woman. That's a lie. This woman is lying. Michael and Phil tried to intervene, but Mill was too enraged to listen. I see, then we need to verify the facts, the man in the suit said, and then started operating a machine at the reception desk. From the machine, we heard Mill's voice and the receptionist from the time of the booking. Yes, Saturday. 1 woman, 2 men, 1 child, Mill's voice said. One woman, 2 men, and 1 child. Could you please provide their ages? What a surprise it was to hear Mill's voice confirming the details of the reservation. Mill's face, which had been red, turned pale. The man in the suit, still smiling, looked at Mill. She wasn't ready to give up yet. I just made a mistake. I set the wrong number. Mill started making excuses. Then Michael stepped forward. Mom, tell the truth. You didn't book a room for Olivia on purpose, did you? What are you talking about? I would never do such a thing, Mill replied. Okay, then let's check, Michael said, reaching into my bag. I was puzzled until he pulled out a voice recorder. I actually put a recorder in and recorded it without Olivia's knowledge. Here, let's listen to the conversation you had at the reception desk earlier. Mill's face turned even paler when the recording played. It clearly captured Mill saying, "You're not part of the family, so I didn't book a room for you." So you said this, Michael asked calmly. Oh, well. The receptionist had heard it too, so Mill couldn't lie her way out. You did something like this, Phil shouted at Mill with an angry expression. I'm sorry, Mill finally apologized, but she had caused too much trouble for the hotel. We're going home. We'll discuss this later. But whose fault do you think this is? Phil whimpered and fell silent. I'm really sorry for this. Please enjoy yourselves, Phil said to us and then apologized to the hotel staff before dragging Mill away. Michael and I apologized to the receptionist and the manager, but they both smiled and said, "Please don't worry. Enjoy your stay at our hotel." We were able to fully enjoy our stay at the hotel. Mom, it's nice that the mean grandma is gone, Emma said, surprising me. Even small children can sense the atmosphere. By the way, Phil paid the cancellation fee and left, so we didn't have to pay extra afterward. Phil got fed up and demanded a divorce from Mill. The trigger was this incident, but Michael and I had also reported Mill's persistent phone calls and messages, so Phil completely lost trust in her. When Phil checked with my bill, he discovered that Mill had also been cruel to my Bill's wife. Surprisingly, my Bill and his wife had not divorced. They were planning to leave the family home under the guise of separation. It was a shock, but I was glad to know they were still together. They seemed very happy. Mill, abandoned by Phil and cut off by her sons, now lives alone somewhere. It's truly her own doing. On the other hand, we regularly meet with Phil and my Bill's family, enjoying barbecues and trips together. I want to cherish these family bonds and watch over Michael and Emma as they grow.